In the quiet green village of Koodathayi in Kerala, everyone knew the Ponomatum family. They were respected and well-liked. In this peaceful setting, Jolly Joseph seemed like the perfect daughter-in-law. She was married to Roy Thomas, the son of the family patriarch. Jolly was always smiling, helpful, and deeply religious. She attended church regularly and was a familiar, friendly face at every local gathering. Neighbors saw her as a devoted wife and a loving mother to her two sons. She cared for her in-laws, Anama and Tom Thomas, with what appeared to be genuine affection. To the outside world, she was the glue that held the family together, a pillar of strength and kindness in her community. No one suspected the darkness that hid behind her warm smile. Jolly had carefully built a reputation as a dependable and educated woman. She told everyone she was a professor at the prestigious National Institute of Technology in Calicut. Every morning, she would leave home, neatly dressed, as if heading to a demanding academic job. This lie gave her immense respect within her family and the village. People looked up to her, admiring her for balancing a successful career with her family duties. This carefully constructed image of a modern, yet traditional woman was her greatest defense. It made her seem incapable of any wrongdoing, a person above all suspicion. The Ponomatum house was a place of comfort and tradition. Life moved at a gentle pace, marked by family meals, religious festivals, and community events. Jolly fit into this world seamlessly. She was often in the kitchen, preparing meals for the family. Her mutton soup was particularly famous among them. She seemed to embody the ideal values of a daughter-in-law in a traditional Indian family. She was respectful to her elders, supportive of her husband, and a doting mother. This facade was so convincing that for 14 long years, no one saw the cold, calculating killer living among them. She was hiding in plain sight, using their trust as her most powerful shield. Behind this mask of perfection, however, a very different story was unfolding. Jolly was a woman driven by dark ambitions that were completely at odds with her public persona. She craved wealth, control, and a different life than the one she had. The peaceful family home was not a sanctuary for her. It was a stage. On this stage, she played the part of a lifetime, deceiving everyone she knew. The tranquil village of Koodathayi was unknowingly harboring a predator, and the very family that had welcomed her with open arms would soon become her unsuspecting victims, one by one, over more than a decade of unimaginable horror. The series of tragedies began in 2002. The first victim was Anama Thomas, Jolly's 57-year-old mother-in-law. Anama was the matriarch of the Ponomatum family, a strong woman who managed the household finances and affairs. One evening, after drinking a bowl of mutton soup prepared by Jolly, Anama collapsed and died. The family was shocked and devastated. Because she had a history of health issues, everyone, including the doctors, assumed it was a heart attack. In their grief, no one thought to question the circumstances. An autopsy was not performed. Jolly played the part of the grieving daughter-in-law perfectly, offering comfort to her distraught husband and father-in-law. 6 years later, in 2008, death visited the Ponomatum house again. This time, it was Tom Thomas, Jolly's 66-year-old father-in-law. After his wife's death, Tom had been managing the family's property and finances. One day, he collapsed and died shortly after eating a meal. Just like with his wife, the death was sudden and unexpected. Once again, the cause of death was ruled a heart attack. The family was now reeling from a second major loss. Jolly, now the senior woman in the household, stepped up to take care of everyone. She appeared to be the rock the family needed in its time of sorrow, but in reality, she was methodically removing the obstacles to her ultimate goal: control of the family's assets. With both of her in-laws gone, Jolly's control over the household grew. However, her own husband, Roy Thomas, was the next to fall. In 2011, the 40-year-old Roy collapsed in the bathroom, foaming at the mouth, and died before he could be taken to the hospital. This time, one family member, Roy's uncle Matthew Manjadil, insisted on a post-mortem examination. He was suspicious about the series of sudden deaths. The autopsy report revealed something shocking. Traces of cyanide were found in Roy's body. The police, however, ruled the death a suicide, suggesting Roy had taken his own life due to financial problems. Jolly supported this story, telling everyone that Roy was in debt. The family, already broken by grief, reluctantly accepted the suicide verdict. The mention of cyanide was a disturbing detail, but it was overshadowed by the shame and sadness of a supposed suicide. Jolly inherited the house and property as Roy's widow. She continued her act, portraying herself as a tragic widow and a single mother struggling to raise her 2 sons. With her husband gone and the property now in her name, she was one step closer to her sinister goals. The shadow of death that had first appeared with Anama's passing was now growing longer and darker over the Ponamatam family, and still, no one suspected the killer was living right beside them. The one person who remained suspicious was Matthew Manjadil, Roy Thomas's maternal uncle. He was the one who had insisted on an autopsy for Roy, and the cyanide finding never sat well with him. Matthew started asking questions and voicing his concerns to other relatives. He found it strange that 3 healthy people from the same family had died in such similar ways. He was a threat to Jolly's carefully crafted narrative. In 2014, his probing came to a sudden and tragic end. Matthew, who was 68 years old, collapsed and died. Predictably, his death was also attributed to a sudden heart attack. With Matthew gone, the last voice of open suspicion was silenced. Jolly's next target was the most innocent of all. She had her eyes set on marrying Shaju Zacharias, her late husband's cousin. But Shaju was already married to a woman named Silly and had a 2-year-old daughter named Alphine. In 2014, the same year Matthew died, tragedy struck Shaju's family. During a family function, little Alphine fell ill and died after eating a piece of bread. Jolly had been present and was the one who gave the child food. The toddler's death was dismissed as a case of accidental choking. A child's death is always a profound tragedy, and in the midst of such heartbreak, no one thought to suspect foul play. It was seen as just another terrible misfortune to befall the extended family. 2 years later, in 2016, Jolly moved to eliminate her final obstacle. Silly Shaju, Alphine's mother and Shaju's wife, was her next victim. During a visit to a dentist, accompanied by Jolly and Shaju, Silly suddenly felt unwell after drinking a glass of water that Jolly had reportedly given her. She collapsed, foaming at the mouth, and died on Shaju's lap. The symptoms were eerily similar to Roy Thomas's death. Yet again, the death was considered natural, perhaps another heart attack. The community whispered about a curse on the family, unable to comprehend the string of devastating losses. Silly's death was the 6th and final murder in the chain. With Silly gone, the path was finally clear for Jolly. A year after Silly's death in 2017, Jolly Joseph married Shaju Zacharias. To outsiders, it might have looked like 2 grieving people finding solace in each other. They had both lost their spouses, and Shaju had lost his child. Their marriage seemed like a logical, if sad, conclusion. Jolly had successfully eliminated every person who stood in her way. She had the property, and now she had the man she desired. The pattern of deaths, spanning 14 years, was complete. She believed her crimes were buried forever, dismissed as a series of unfortunate natural events. Jolly Joseph's weapon of choice was cyanide, a fast-acting and deadly poison. She chose it carefully because, well, its effects could easily be mistaken for a heart attack. When ingested, cyanide quickly shuts down the body's ability to use oxygen, leading to seizures, respiratory failure, and rapid death. The symptoms, sudden collapse, gasping for breath, and convulsions, were what made doctors and family members believe the victims had suffered from cardiac arrest. This misdiagnosis was the cornerstone of her long-running deception. By using a poison that mimicked natural causes, she could kill in plain sight without raising immediate alarm. She was not a violent killer. She was a quiet, patient poisoner. Getting her hands on the poison was another part of her meticulous plan. Jolly sourced the cyanide from 2 accomplices, M.S. Matthew, a close relative who worked at a jewelry store, and Prajikumar, a goldsmith. She told them she needed the poison for cleaning gold, which, honestly, was a pretty plausible excuse in their line of work. They provided her with the deadly substance, likely unaware of her true intentions. Jolly would then store the cyanide, waiting for the right moment. She administered it by mixing it into food or drinks. Anama Thomas received it in her mutton soup, Roy Thomas in his rice and curry, and Silly Shaju in a glass of water. Her role as the caring family member who often prepared meals gave her the perfect opportunity to deliver the fatal dose. The reason her crimes went undetected for so long was a combination of factors. In a close-knit community, questioning the cause of a loved one's death, especially in elders, can be seen as disrespectful. When the doctor declared a heart attack, the grieving family accepted the verdict. The emotional turmoil of a sudden loss often prevents rational suspicion. Furthermore, autopsies were not standard procedure, especially for the elderly. The only post-mortem conducted on Roy Thomas did find cyanide. However, Jolly skillfully manipulated the situation by planting the idea of suicide, a narrative that the family, in their shame and grief, chose to believe over the more sinister alternative of murder. Jolly's greatest deception, however, was her entire life. For years, she pretended to be a commerce professor at the National Institute of Technology in Calicut. She even had a fake ID card. Every morning, she would leave home in her car, maintaining the charade of a working professional. This lie earned her respect and admiration, making her seem like an intelligent, upstanding citizen. No one thought to verify her claims. This fake career not only bolstered her social status, but also provided a perfect alibi and a smokescreen for her activities. The image of the educated, modern woman simply did not fit the profile of a cold-blooded killer, allowing her to operate without suspicion for 14 years. At the heart of Jolly Joseph's horrifying crimes were three powerful motives: greed, love, and a burning ambition for a better life. The primary driver was her insatiable greed for the Ponomatum family's property and wealth. Her in-laws, Anama and Tom Thomas, were the gatekeepers of the family assets. Anama controlled the household finances, and after her death, Tom took over. By murdering them, Jolly removed the two main obstacles standing between her and the family fortune. She wanted a lifestyle of comfort and luxury, and she saw the family property as her ticket to achieving it. The desire for material gain was the cold, calculated reason for the first two murders. After her in-laws were gone, Jolly's husband, Roy Thomas, was the legal heir. However, his presence complicated her plans. By killing him and making it look like a suicide, she not only inherited the property directly as his widow, but also solidified her control. She forged his will to ensure the entire estate, including the family home, came to her. Any family member who questioned her claim to the property became a target. Her husband's uncle, Matthew Manjadiel, grew suspicious about the fake will and the series of deaths. His inquiries made him a threat, and so he too was eliminated. Each murder was a calculated step towards securing her financial future. Beyond greed, another strong motive was her desire to marry Shaju Zacharias, her late husband's cousin. Jolly was allegedly having an affair with Shaju and saw a future with him. However, this future could not be realized while their respective spouses were alive. Her own husband, Roy, was already an obstacle to her financial plans, but Shaju's wife, Silly, and his young daughter, Alphine, were also in the way. Jolly believed that if she could remove them from the picture, she and Shaju could finally be together. The murders of Alphine and Silly were not about property. They were about clearing the path to a new relationship. This desire for a new life with Shaju was intertwined with her ambition for a higher social standing. Jolly craved respect and admiration. She was not content with being just a housewife in a village. This is why she invented the elaborate lie about being a professor at NIT. This false identity gave her the status she desperately wanted. Marrying Shaju, a teacher, would have further cemented her image as part of an educated, respectable couple. Her motives were a toxic cocktail of financial greed, romantic obsession, and a deep-seated need to project an image of success and sophistication, an image she was willing to kill for, again and again. For years, the truth behind the 6 deaths remained buried with the victims. But one person could not let go of his doubts. Roho Thomas, Roy Thomas's younger brother who lived in the United States, was never convinced that his brother had committed suicide. He also found it strange that so many of his family members had died from sudden heart attacks. The convenient timing of the deaths, especially how they cleared the way for Jolly to inherit property and marry Shaju, fueled his suspicions. From thousands of miles away, Rojo began to piece together the disturbing puzzle that his family back home had been too grief-stricken to see. In 2019, Rojo decided to take action. He was particularly troubled by the fake will that Jolly had produced, which gave her sole ownership of the family property. He knew his father would never have written such a will. He filed a formal complaint with the police, requesting a deeper investigation into the entire series of deaths, starting with his brother, Roy. He urged the authorities to look again at the original post-mortem report that had found cyanide in Roy's system. This single act of persistence by a determined brother was the catalyst that would finally bring Jolly Joseph's 14-year reign of terror to an end. The police took Rojo's complaint seriously. They launched a covert investigation, quietly gathering information and speaking to relatives and neighbors. The more they dug, the more inconsistencies they found in Jolly's stories. Her claim of being an NIT professor was one of the first lies to crumble. A check with the institution revealed they had no employee by that name. The investigation team decided that the only way to find conclusive evidence was to exhume the bodies of the deceased. In October 2019, the graves of the 6 family members were opened. It was a grim and sensational development that shocked the entire state of Kerala. Forensic experts collected samples from the remains for testing. The results were chilling and confirmed Rojo's worst fears. Lethal amounts of cyanide were found in the bodies that were tested. The pattern was undeniable. This was not a string of tragic coincidences or a family curse. It was a series of cold-blooded murders. Armed with this irrefutable scientific evidence, the police moved in to arrest Jolly Joseph. They also arrested her 2 accomplices, M.S. Matthew and Prajakumar, who had supplied her with the poison. The perfect daughter-in-law's mask was finally stripped away, revealing the monster underneath. The long-hidden secret of Koodathayi was now out in the open. Following her arrest on October 5, 2019, Jolly Joseph's confident facade began to crack. Faced with damning forensic evidence and relentless police questioning, she reportedly confessed to the murders. She calmly recounted the details of each killing, explaining how she had poisoned 6 members of her own family over 14 years. Her confession sent shockwaves across India and the world. The story of the smiling, church-going woman who was secretly a serial killer became a media sensation. The case was so complex that a special investigation team was formed to handle the 6 separate murder charges, 1 for each victim. The legal proceedings that followed have been slow and methodical. As of today, March 7, 2026, the trial is ongoing. The prosecution has been meticulously building its case, presenting hundreds of witnesses and a mountain of evidence. Recent developments, such as the testimony of the forensic surgeon in mid-2025, confirming the presence of cyanide in Roy Thomas's viscera report from 2011, have significantly strengthened the case against her. The story has also captured the public imagination, leading to a popular Netflix documentary, Curry and Cyanide, and a new Malayalam web series, Anali, ensuring that the chilling tale of Jolly Joseph remains in the public consciousness. The Koodathayi cyanide killings teach us a profound and disturbing lesson about trust. The family is supposed to be our safest space, a sanctuary from the dangers of the outside world. Jolly Joseph's story shatters this belief. It shows that evil can wear a familiar face and live under the same roof. She exploited the deep trust her family placed in her, using her roles as a wife, mother, and daughter-in-law as a cover for her crimes. Her case serves as a chilling reminder that we may not truly know the people closest to us. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that the greatest danger can sometimes come from within. Ultimately, the story of Jolly Joseph is a cautionary tale about the destructive power of unchecked greed and ambition. She was driven by a desire for a life she felt she deserved, and she was willing to eliminate anyone who stood in her way. The peaceful village of Koodathayi became the setting for a real-life horror story that unfolded not with a dramatic bang, but with quiet, poisoned meals served with a smile. It teaches us to be vigilant, to question things that don't add up, and to listen to the nagging voice of suspicion, just as Rojo Thomas did. His courage to seek the truth ensured that justice, however delayed, would finally be pursued for the 6 silent victims of the Panamatum family.